Hello AP kids, this is Ms. Bastelica and I wanted to talk to you about some citation errors that I saw more than once on the first draft of the research essays that I graded this weekend. These examples that you see on this slide I created, but they're crafted off of some errors that I saw on y'all's papers. That's right, I said y'all. So take a look at these three statements. See if you can identify the errors in each of these statements, and most of them are with the citations. So first one, the cost of college has steadily increased over the last 20 years. And in the parenthetical citation it says college costs. Even though college is expensive, it has long-lasting benefits for lifelong earning. And then the citation Smith. And then Yardley says that even to be employed as a secretary, employers expect candidates to have bachelor's degrees. There are actually 4 errors in these 3 statements. What are they? Let's talk about it. So, the cost of college has steadily increased over the last 20 years is a paraphrase of an idea from the article College Costs. If it's a title, please make sure you punctuate it appropriately. Because it's an article, it needs quotation marks. All right. Of course, if it would be a larger text, like a whole book, it should be underlined or, or italicized. Our next one. There's a comma at the end here that is unnecessary. I did see this on more than one essay. You do not need a comma before a parenthetical citation. Even if it's a quote, you don't need a comma there. And lastly, and our third statement actually had 2 errors. The first one, it had said that Yardley says, but again, you didn't have a conversation with Yardley, did you? So you need to use a verb like Yardley writes or Yardley states. And finally, when you have a quotation like this, the period should be inside the quotation marks. That is, unless there's a parenthetical citation, in which case the period should be outside the parentheses. But if you have an in-text citation like this, move the period or comma inside the quotation mark. All right, so let's talk a little bit about works cited formatting. So you see a works cited page here. Notice a few things. The second and third line, and if you even have a 4th line, are indented. The first line is all the way justified to the left. In addition, it's in alphabetical order, B, C, D, E. Finally, you notice there's not space among the different sources. The important thing with works cited is that you maintain all those other MLA formatting things. Now, I did see a lot of students giving electronic sources page numbers, but you actually don't need page numbers for electronic sources. The title here is Blueprint Lays Out Clear Path for Climate Action. We know it's a title because it has quotation marks around it. What would the parenthetical citation for this first source look like? It would look like this. A shortened version of the title with the title properly punctuated. If it's a really long title like this, you don't need the whole title. You can just do the first word or the first couple words to identify it on the works cited page. Let's take a look at the next source. In this one, you do have an author, but again, it's an electronic source. It's a web source, so it does not require a page number. What would it look like on the works cited, what would a parenthetical citation for this source look like? As you probably guessed, it would be just the author's last name, Clinton. And the last one I wanted to show you is actually a print source. Okay, unlike an electronic source, a print source does require a page number. So what would the parenthetical citation look like? Well, you would take the author's last name, because you have an author, and you would include a page number. One thing I want to say about citing, you must make sure that you've cited from your independent reading text. Please make sure you don't leave that out. That's very important because that's the reason you wrote your essay. So make sure you are citing your independent reading tips. So this slide is basically just a summary of what we just talked about. Please punctuate the titles accordingly with quotation marks or italics or underline. Commas are not necessary before parenthetical citations, even if there is a quotation there. Use appropriate verbs to introduce ideas like states, writes, explains, instead of a word like says. Periods and commas should be inside quotation marks. Question marks, semicolon should be outside. That is, unless there's a parenthetical citation there, in which case the period should be outside the parentheses. And finally, electronic or web sources do not require page numbers, so don't worry about it. Just put the title of the article or the author's last name. So this has been a quick overview of the kind of errors I saw in the first drafts. Please use this as well as all my other detailed comments on your Turnitin papers, on your papers on Turnitin to finalize your final copies. Thank you.